Nathan is a missionary in Uganda as well as the United States. He's a global missionary. And so we are excited to chat today. So the first question, I think is probably one of my most important questions, is who is your favorite brother and why? And if the answer is not me, this interview will be a brother.
I don't feel like I've given a lot of freedom in that one. Do all of the questions have that narrow?
Yes, and ultimatums.
And I'll choose Luke.
Okay.
No, I usually choose whichever brother I'm with right then, just because I don't like confrontation. So I want you to feel good about yourself. Actually, I'm my favorite brother.
Out of us three.
Out of the three of us, I'm the favorite brother of myself. Yeah.
Well, good to know.
Yeah.
So one of the main things I wanted to ask you and why I brought Nathan on first, because obviously I'm very comfortable with my brother, and so as our kind of pilot episode, I wanted to chat with you, and I had some burning questions, and now that you're here, one of the main ones was you have a podcast that you've been doing for a while about every other week.
Yeah.
And I've really liked it and enjoyed it, but I wanted to know your heart behind the podcast and kind of where it came from, what you're doing with it.
Yeah, so I was kind of looking for what are some untapped mediums, things that missions is not really present, and also what are some newer mediums, things that people... the interesting thing about podcasts is that if you're too short, people tell you that you're too short. They actually want it to be long, whereas in every other medium, if it's too long, they don't even watch it. If it's 6, 7, 8 minutes on a video or something like that, there's kind of these numbers that we work with and try to stay underneath. And a lot of times people will say, man, it's only 15 minutes, you need to make a longer podcast. So the ability to put a lot of content. Here's the thing, though. Being able to be artistic in the podcast, to kind of give the feeling and emotion of the thing. So it's not just, as awesome as Facebook is, you can really do video, pictures, lots of things, but there's something specific about the audio experience, I think, that I was really drawn to. And so being able to record people's stories, interview people, and then add in stuff that you can't really do in other places, like if I'm talking about being in the airport, then I put in audio. It kind of makes you feel like you're in the airport, and it brings a life to something that's almost only possible in a podcast.
Right.
Yeah, so the uniqueness of that medium is really exciting.
So, it's called Missionlife Podcast.
Missionlife, yeah, one word.
So, where did that come from?
Well, I was working with some people that I respect and I'm close to, and was kind of talking to them about the idea and saying I think the name's pretty important, but I don't have any ideas. And so we started coming up with what are like 2 words that really are the essence of the idea here. And obviously mission is really important, but also we chose life because we don't want for missions to be separated or segmented off. It's not something we put in the margin. Right. Missions is something that is just a part of life, which is also the reason that we didn't put any gap between the words. So mission and life are together almost as if they're one word, kind of trying to send the message that missions and life are one word. It's just the way we conduct ourselves.
Yeah, I really like that. And that comes through in the messaging in the podcast. It's more than just a lot of times in podcasts it'll just be informational or entertaining. Yours is informational, entertaining, but it's also instructive and can be applied. The life lessons can be applied to everyday life, not just in Uganda, but here. We can use it here and now, and so that's been really cool to see you do that.
Yeah, I think we're trying to take it a little more that this is not just some, unique, side, interesting thing, but it's a new normal. So we try to really talk about it. I say we. I'm really the one that does it. Back in the office, the production cast. No, it's just myself.
Well, I don't know if I've ever asked you this. It was, 4 years ago you became a missionary? 5?
Yeah, something like that.
And I remember you telling me that you were feeling like that and that your family was going to be doing that. And I never really asked you why WGM? Like, there's other missions places. Why WGM?
Yeah, there's a lot of them. Yeah, I think there's several reasons. One is the consistency. WGM's been really consistent in their message and core values. One of them is the longevity. What have we been around? 500 years? 600 years? I think we were here before America was founded. I don't know. It's over 100 years. 108 years. Yeah, back when America was founded. So the longevity is really important. I aligned with what we're doing. We were called to Uganda. We weren't necessarily called to an organization. So we were looking for what organization's currently already strong in the country that we're called to. Who's working there? Who can we trust that we align with their values? They've been consistent over a long period of time, and we see that they're heading in a upright direction. Didn't even necessarily need it to be like everything that we wanted to be at the moment. We just wanted to see there's optimism here, there's hope here, and it's in a direction that we want to be a part of. And it started that way, and it's still that way. So that's why.
Thanks. Your story. I mean, I know it better than
you're in
most
it.
Viewers. Yeah, I'm in it. I've been a part of it my whole life.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, looking up to you, and there are different stages of just you becoming who you are now.
Yeah.
And a part of that was a lot of mistakes and flaws and things that happened along the way. How did that shape you, and how do you use that to speak to people who might be interested in missions or just trying to figure out, like, am I qualified for this? Am I the right person for this type of work?
Yeah, my wife and I both kind of share the same story, that it's probably not the storybook version of how someone comes into missions, but the interesting thing is, one of the things we did when we were first traveling, kind of meeting new people and new churches, and kind of building a community of people that aligned with what we were trying to do in Uganda, is we just told them that story, that this is who we are, this is where we've been, and if God can make missionaries out of us, He can make missionaries out of anybody. That's kind of been our theme ever since. Is our story is really not about us accomplishing a whole lot or doing a whole lot, or it's about what God can do with people who say yes. That's the extent of it. So in our story, there's all kinds of reasons that it shouldn't have happened this way. It defies quite a bit of logic, but that's what God does too. Is takes illogical situations and makes them matter, makes them life-changing and transformational for people. And so if we can, within reason, I don't want to just celebrate it for the fun of it, but if we can tell people our story, the way that we've messed up, screwed up, and yet what God's done with that, I feel like that's a lot better way of giving people an inroad. Like, it's an invitation is what it is. It's not a pat on the back for us or saying, hey, look, we pulled it together. Right? It's saying, man, just say yes one time. Wake up today and say yes to God and see what it feels like at the end of the day. Say yes again tomorrow morning. And God turns mistakes into miracles. That sounded way too Hallmark Channel.
Well, I know from experience, like, seeing you have transformed and are continuing to transform and become the man God wants you to be. And it's been obvious from our family's perspective watching how you've changed, because I remember when you were in college, and I remember when you were in high school, and I remember how hard certain things were and your attitudes for certain things and how you viewed the world. It was obvious, and now there's this transformation. It's inspiring. I mean, it's changed a lot of how I view things and how I approach things, because I see this life change and God working through you, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. I want to be part of that. And I think that's that's part of what you were telling me about Mission Life, and what the goal is there with your U.S. ministry is it's a relational basis.
Oh, yeah.
You change within first, and then you bring Christ within you to other people.
Yeah, the more control I have over my own life, the worse things get.
Right.
Like every time that I've let go, things improve. And so I think that's kind of our goal, not just in our missionary work, but in the way we communicate it, and then definitely with the Missionlife podcast is there's a lot of things in our society that need to happen, a lot of things in our culture that need to happen, and they feel really awkward to do them. I'm almost positive I just saw a dead horse over there. It's really distracting. Do horses just lay down on their side?
It was
really, really asleep. So yeah, God's calling my It's really distracting. What's your next question?
Well, I have two more. One is specifically, and I remember you speaking about this in a sermon one time, but you were talking about Ugandan culture, and it specifically was touching on how community works within culture there.
Yeah.
And how we can apply that to us, what we're doing here. Yeah. And I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit, because I thought those lessons, since I've heard that sermon, I've taken with me, and has really kind of been a mental change for me of how I approach relationship building and church in general,
right.
Not just the building, but the people. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the prime benefits of multicultural church, and not just embracing diversity as if we're dealing with it, like, oh, all right, diversity, all right, but going after it and making a diverse culture happen in front of us as much as we possibly can, because what happens is we see that other cultures are strong in other ways. Right. So one of the ways that Africa's strong, well, a lot of us know this, it's the old phrase, it takes a village to raise a child thing, but that's an allusion to the entire fabric of their culture, which is dependency on each other, alignment with each other. They're always working together, so they sacrifice for each other to make sure that they survive. And so there's these lots of psychological impacts of that, and the ways that it changes how you interact with each other. And so I've taken those and I tried to distill them down to what can I fit in my luggage and take back to America. And some of them are things just like people over tasks. Like this is not to Africa is not a task-based or time-based culture. They're a people and event-based culture. And so how do I do that in the States? It's really, really hard because, somebody expects you to be there at 11:30. You're there at 11:30. Yeah. Even if you're 10:30, turns out that person is still there and they need you. So we still, we can't go all the way, but I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take from, for example, as much as possible. Let me say one. I'm gonna try not to get on a high horse or a soapbox, because the horse died back there, so I can't get on the high horse. So I'm not on a high horse.
Sleeping.
Yeah, but it's still asleep. I don't know what he could do. So one of them is to live in an event time-based culture like we do, but to learn from a people-based culture is to say whoever is in front of me for whatever time they're in front of me, they are my absolute priority. So just because, maybe I feel like I'm doing a good job, my phone's on the table, but it's upside down. Well, it's still there. It's saying that I'm open to the possibility that somebody else could interrupt me at any time, and I'm going to look at it or take it.
Right.
Even just moving the phone into the bag and giving them full attention and interaction, it's bizarrely like countercultural.
Yeah.
Ironically, there's like 5
now,
cameras in the car.
As I adjust the camera while you're talking.
Really just paying attention to me while I'm talking to you. That would be a good step. That's what Africa taught me. Listen. No, I mean people first. I think if I had to summarize it down, it's just people first.
Yeah, I think, and that's something I've thought about, because I'm a millennial, which we get a bad rap, I think, already. Yeah. And
Just being distracted.
Yeah, being distracted, and not necessarily for the reasons that I think some people think, that we want to be entertained all the time. It's the idea of the fear of missing out.
Yeah.
And what we are missing out on by this fear of missing out is the person right in front of us. So we're afraid to miss out on what might be happening online or on social media or whatever, and the person talking in front of us really needs someone to listen.
Yeah, full attention.
Present right there and values their conversation.
Yeah, I think a side effect of that too is speed of life. When we have so much access to content all the time, and we can just press play, shut it up. We're just moving from one thing to another so quickly that sitting and just paying attention to somebody and listening for an hour. I mean, even just that I just said an hour seems like a long time. It's not a long time. We're just used to quick, move from one thing to the other. So I think practicing just slowing down intentionally, not watching something on purpose. Just sit and stare at the TV when it's off. You know what I mean? Just let your brain slow down so you can handle a slower pace if you really want to prioritize people.
Right. Yeah, I think even when your podcast mentions linger and how lingering is important and just taking the time to sit.
Yeah, lingering is amazing. It's this idea of being present longer than somebody expects you to be. So a lot of our behavior in life is rooted in our own intentions. I intend to express this. But I think what I like about lingering is it doesn't really matter what I intend to do. My intention is I want to show you a lot of care and time. I want to pay attention to you. Right. Lingering means I wait for you to show me that you think the conversation's over, and then I stay in it. So the other person gets to determine the length of the conversation.
That can be awkward at first, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's really awkward. Yeah, but I think if it's realized, wow, I have this person's attention longer than I thought I was going to get it.
Yeah,
that's actually it's a pretty significant moment.
Well, I have one final question.
Yeah, and
then I'll let you go, even though we have several more miles to drive back to headquarters.
We'll just sit here quietly.
So our parents obviously had a big impact, as well as our other brother, on what we're doing, who we are as husbands, fathers, Christians, what we're doing. What do you bring to your family? Because missions is a huge adjustment. Your kids are moving miles and miles away. They're transitioning, changing every 3 years, if not more, when they come back and go. What are you telling them? How are you raising them in order to understand that this is important? Yeah. But we're going to take time to value this. And then also along with that question, how do you talk about parenting and the value of it with others as far as it applies to mission life? Yeah.
Well, in the first half of the question, I think my wife and I do a couple things. We try as much as we can to include our children in the calling. So I'm not sure how it appears we've been fairly successful in that. I don't know all the elements that have gone into that. We've tried to include them in the activities of it and some of the decision making of it, and some of them at different points have self-identified as missionaries. That's a huge achievement right there. So not making them feel like they are a cost of our ministry. That's one of the things that I heard when we first accepted the call to missions was we started talking to people whose parents were missionaries and asking them, what did you love and what hurt you? And one of the things we heard quite a bit was that it was very difficult for people to be missionaries and parents at the same time. And they wish they could have been missionaries too. They wish they could have been more involved in the mission. Yeah. So we've tried to do that, and I feel like we've been moderately successful in that. The other thing is allowing for our kids to hurt, because we're constantly moving. Right. Our kids have gone to 4 and 5 different schools, back and forth. I think they've only gone to consecutive years of school one time. So they're saying goodbye a lot to friends. And as much as we love technology with the ability for them to communicate, it's also keeping them connected to people they can't really be connected to. So just allowing them, I think, to feel that pain and not make it go away. And we went to some training that one of the phrases was, the more you hurt, the more you loved. And so if you love a lot, you hurt a lot when you leave. So you can't have one without the other. If you want to take away the hurt, you're also taking away the love and the closeness to people. So
I think you experienced that yourself when you were about to leave. You started to feel like, in order for me to not totally feel this so harshly, I have to separate myself a little bit.
Yeah. And I know that it has impacts on us. You can't just come and go from country to country and be so transient in your lifestyle and not expect it to have a psychological or internal effect on you. I'm sure it does. I probably don't know all the impacts of that, but you kind of, because it's a part of the life, you just say, well, this is what we're offering as well. We thought it maybe originally that it was just we're getting on a plane and going to Uganda to live. But bundled in with that is the goodbyes, the pains, the I'm not at home anymore, the I'm a parent of kids who are also doing this, so you feel this kind of guilt, like, did I do this to them?
Yeah.
Is this a good life for them? Am I parenting them? Have I put them in a position they shouldn't be in? And you just kind of put that all in the same bag and say, well, this is an act of worship, then all of it is. As far as what we do in mission life, it's to include kids in as much as possible. So really, you can't be specific about that because every parent knows their child far better than I do. And some of this is preference. My preference is, as much as my kids are willing to handle, I include them in it because I want to be the one to talk them through that. So if we put our kids in this bubble, and then something comes in the bubble, we don't always know. I want to be a part of my kids being exposed to all of the light of the world and a tempered, a measured amount of darkness in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't want them to just kind of stumble into that after they've left my home.
Yeah.
I would like for them to leave my home at 18 and say, you know what, for the last 10 years of my life, because, younger kids aren't quite ready for that, but about 8, 9, we start doing that. For the last 10 years of my life, my dad's been, and my mom has been talking to me about and exposing me to the wickedness of the world.
Yeah.
And we discuss it clearly in a Christian conversation. So it doesn't take them by surprise. That's missional parenting.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, you think about, like I'm a dad too, and I think about my kids, and just a huge part of protecting them is giving them the freedom to experience things.
Yeah.
Because if they don't experience it, which when I was working at a college environment, I had students come in that their parents dropped them off and visited them every weekend and all these things, and once they get into the real life situations, that can't happen, and it's a total culture shock.
Yeah.
And you can handle the situation so much better if you've been involved with your parents and approaching something so dark or wicked, or just talking through, how are you going to tell your friend that they hurt your feelings? How are you going to tell your friend about Jesus? Like, how are you going to, like you said in your sermon yesterday, how are you going to approach somebody in love, but still you're not totally accepting of everything, because sinful behavior shouldn't be accepted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other thing is, I think, just surrendering our children to a better father. It's, when we were first called, I didn't know how safe or dangerous Uganda was. I knew it was really far away. I knew we were taking a long plane ride. And so I was kind of rattling through the different things that I felt God was calling me to surrender, and one of them was the safety and protection and provision for my children. That's stuff that I wanted to provide, and I realized I'm really getting thrown to the wolves on this one. I can't provide that stuff there. I've come to realize, since being there, it's actually a pretty safe country. But initially, I didn't know that.
Right.
And what I had to do was, and I remember this prayer, is praying and surrendering the safety of my children to God, which for me was just a tearful, emotional prayer.
against instinct.
It is.
As a father, yeah.
It is, yeah. So I even thought forward, like, well, if the very worst thing were to happen to my children, and it's because I obeyed God, would I regret my obedience?
Wow, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to go really deep into that, but I think when we begin to take missional living seriously, we start to ask really different questions about our life. And those are the kind of questions my wife and I ask.
Good answers. Well, it's been great talking to you. There will be more more episodes to come with different missionaries, with staff, but it's been a pleasure talking with you. In the description later on, once I get back to headquarters and have time, I will be putting links to his podcast, his blog, other things that he has available. And don't forget, Nathan is just a person. Missionaries are people. If you're interested, please contact us and let us know. We'd be happy just to have a conversation. It doesn't have to be okay, we'll get you signed up right away. Mission starts small and works to big things. And God is always a part of those things. And He can do things in you that you'd never imagined.
Absolutely.
So with that, Nathan, if you want to press finish.
No,